chairmanship from the National Party chair, we were able to get to this position today. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Oh, there he is, sorry.
I call Chris Penk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise to take the second half of a split call on the Brokering, Weapons and Related Items Controls Bill. If I were to add a footnote to the title of the bill, it would be that it's a hand to head off a body of arms, which I might say is about half a dozen corporal metaphors if I were to go out on a limb. Madam Speaker, we support this bill on this side of the House. Indeed, we introduced it into the House in the previous Parliament. And as the Speaker prior to me has noted, with whom I am sharing the split call, it does allow us to fulfil international obligations, specifically the Arms Trade Treaty, which we joined in 2014. So for that reason alone, but others as well, as we shall see, which Mr McAnulty is very anxious to hear, it is indeed a good bill. It seems to me a well-structured bill, Madam Speaker, because it goes to the entity and also the activity of those who would broker arms and indeed the activity itself. So, respectively, it calls upon a person, which is either a natural person or, of course, a company or other legal entity that would broker arms. So call for the registration of that entity to do these things, but also the doing of the things themselves. The activity is also regulated, well, in fact, legislated for, but to be controlled by the mechanism of a permitting and consenting regime. In order to ensure compliance with the law, Madam Speaker, the bill creates various offences, both in the criminal and civil domains, according to whether mere technical breaches are undertaken or more serious breaches of the particular offences in the bill. So without going through those exhaustively, ma'am, I might note that engaging in brokering without being registered is in itself an offence, as is the breach of conditions that are set in a permit that might have been quite rightly obtained but not adhered to subsequent to the fact of it being obtained. Similarly, failing to produce records, keep records or produce records, I should add, or providing false or misleading information in relation to the activities of that entity are also offences. So it seems to me appropriate, ma'am, that we have mechanisms in the bill to ensure that it is well policed. The elements of the offence, considering those carefully, was an aspect of the Select Committee's consideration. I was pleased to be a very small part of that. That's been discussed at some length by previous speakers, so I shan't take any more of the House's time, ma'am, in saying that I join my colleagues on this side of the House, and indeed it seems the other, in commending the bill to the House.
I call Willow Jean Prime.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.